You have probably spent over 20 years of your life chasing happiness, but how many of those years were truly dedicated to finding what actually makes you happy, not just what society told you should make you happy? The path everyone follows looks familiar. Work hard at school, get good grades, land a stable job, buy a house, find someone to marry, have children, climb the career ladder, accumulate possessions. Follow the formula that promises fulfillment at the end. On the outside, it looks like everything worked perfectly. Your social media shows success. Your bank account shows progress. Your resume shows achievement. But on the inside, something feels hollow, empty, like you are living someone else's dream. The questions nobody prepared you to answer keep surfacing. Why do I feel anxious, even when everything is going well? Why does success feel so unsatisfying? Why do I feel more alone, despite being surrounded by people? Why does happiness feel so temporary and fleeting? Recent studies show that 72% of people report feeling unfulfilled despite achieving their major life goals. Depression rates have tripled in the past decade among people who have everything they thought they wanted. Here is what nobody tells you. Modern society was never designed to help you find genuine happiness. It was created to make you a productive consumer, not to help you become truly content. Behind the career advice and lifestyle magazines is a quiet blueprint to produce anxious workers, not peaceful human beings. You were taught to achieve, not to appreciate. You were trained to compete, not to connect. You were conditioned to acquire, not to accept. You learned to perform happiness, not to experience it. The irony cuts deep. You may have become successful in the eyes of your family and friends, but feel like a stranger in your own mind. People fulfill their roles perfectly. They meet their goals consistently. They carry their responsibilities without complaint. Yet they feel restless, worried, and perpetually dissatisfied. Why does this happen? Because you were never taught to recognize what actually creates happiness. You were trained to chase external validation, but not to find internal peace. Modern society teaches you that happiness comes from achievement, accumulation, and approval. But research in psychology shows these external factors contribute less than 10% to long-term life satisfaction. That is the cost of a culture that focuses only on visible success. It leaves you well-equipped to impress others, but unequipped to satisfy yourself. The deception runs deeper than most people realize. Society did not fail to teach you about happiness. It deliberately taught you the wrong definition to keep you consuming, working, and striving endlessly. If you are ready to discover what actually creates lasting happiness and break free from society's false promises, subscribe to this channel. We explore the truths about human fulfillment that most people never learn. Somewhere along the way, something fundamental changed. Human contentment slowly became human consumption. Children naturally find joy in simple moments. They laugh at silly jokes. They get excited about small discoveries. They feel wonder at ordinary things. But gradually the world teaches them that this natural happiness is not enough. Little by little, the messages start coming. Success means earning more money than your neighbors. Happiness requires the latest gadgets. Love depends on looking perfect. Worth comes from achievements and possessions. Over time, you adjusted. You learned that expressing simple contentment was naive. You discovered that society rewards those who want more, achieve more, and display more. The education system taught you to compete for grades instead of learning for curiosity. The job market taught you to work for status instead of purpose. The media taught you to compare instead of appreciate. You learned to perform dissatisfaction, not to pursue fulfillment. You learned to repeat what successful people owned, not to reflect on what made them genuinely happy. The most dangerous part, you were praised for it. Every time you chose ambition over contentment, society applauded. Every time you sacrificed peace for progress, people called you responsible. As philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti observed, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." The child who once found magic in everyday moments becomes the adult who needs constant stimulation to feel alive. The person who used to laugh freely becomes someone who schedules fun like a business meeting. This transformation was not an accident. The modern definition of happiness did not just evolve naturally, it was carefully constructed. The shift began during the industrial age, when economies needed people who would work longer hours and buy more products. A society of content people who appreciated what they had would not drive economic growth. Marketing became the science of manufactured dissatisfaction. Advertisers studied human psychology to create desires that never existed before. They learned to make people feel incomplete without products they had never heard of. The message became clear. Happiness is always one purchase away, one promotion away, one relationship away, one achievement away. Always just out of reach, but never impossible to attain. Economist Victor Lebow wrote in 1955, "Our enormously productive economy demands that we make consumption our way of life, that we convert the buying and use of goods into rituals, that we seek our spiritual satisfaction in consumption." The system does not just sell products, it sells the belief that external things create internal states. It teaches people to look outside themselves for what can only be found within. Before mass media and consumer culture, happiness was understood differently. People found satisfaction in relationships, community, personal growth, and spiritual connection. These sources of joy cost nothing and required no endless upgrading. The tragedy is that this system became invisible. We stopped seeing it as a constructed message and started accepting it as the natural way happiness works. Modern society shaped our understanding of joy before we even knew we had the power to define it for ourselves. On paper, you look more prepared for happiness than any generation in history. You have more education, more opportunities, more resources, and more choices than your grandparents ever imagined. But inside, something crucial is missing. The ability to feel satisfied, the capacity to appreciate what you have, the skill of finding peace in the present moment. When life disrupts the plan, divorce, job loss, illness, death of a loved one, the inadequacy of society's happiness formula becomes clear. All the achievements and possessions provide no comfort during real hardship. Research shows that adults today struggle more with basic life decisions than previous generations, despite having more information available. The reason? They were taught to optimize for external metrics instead of internal wisdom. You can have a successful career and still not know what brings you genuine peace. You can have a beautiful house and still feel homeless in your own life. You can have many followers on social media and still feel completely unknown. We move through life like actors playing a role written by someone else. The role of the successful person, the happy person, the person who has it all together. But behind the performance, many people feel like frauds. They wonder when someone will discover that they do not actually know how to be happy. They worry that everyone else learned something they missed. The missing curriculum becomes obvious. Nobody taught you how to be content with enough, how to find joy without achievement, how to feel worthy without accomplishment, how to be happy without constantly improving yourself. These are not personal failures. They are predictable consequences of a system that profits from your dissatisfaction. At some point, if you pay attention, you begin to notice something unsettling. The happiness you were promised keeps moving further away, no matter how much you achieve. You start to recognize that you have been following an unconscious script about what should make you happy. Graduate school should make you proud. Marriage should make you complete. Success should make you confident. Money should make you secure. But the script was written by people selling you something. Every industry profits when you believe happiness requires their product or service. The fears become visible too. Fear of being ordinary, fear of missing out, fear of not achieving enough, fear of wasting your potential. These fears were not born with you. They were carefully planted and nurtured. Adults carry these childhood messages into every decision. They work jobs they dislike because leaving feels irresponsible. They buy things they do not need because not having them feels like failure. They pursue goals that exhaust them because stopping feels like giving up. Psychologist Erich Fromm warned, "The fact that millions of people share the same vices does not make these vices virtues. The fact that they share so many errors does not make the errors to be truths. These are not natural reactions to life. They are learned patterns of thinking that can be unlearned. The first step in finding real happiness is not to change everything overnight. It is simply to notice how much of what you think you want was suggested to you by someone else. So many of the requirements you live with are not real. They were taught, and what was taught can be questioned. Once you begin to see the programming, something inside you shifts. You realize that the real work ahead is not about fixing yourself, but about rediscovering yourself. You start learning for different reasons, not to impress others or gain credentials, but because curiosity feels alive, not to optimize your performance, but because understanding brings peace. The essential questions change everything. What do I actually enjoy? Why do I enjoy it? What makes me feel most like myself? What would I choose if nobody was watching? You create space for something deeper to emerge. Instead of asking, how can I be more successful? You ask, how can I be more content? Instead of, what should I achieve next? You wonder, what would make this moment satisfying? Real happiness, it turns out, has little to do with external circumstances. Studies consistently show that people adapt to changes in income, status, and possessions within months. But they do not adapt to meaningful relationships, personal growth, and service to others. Authentic joy comes from alignment between your values and your actions, from accepting yourself as you are while growing into who you want to become, from connecting deeply with others and contributing to something larger than yourself. This kind of happiness does not require a perfect life. It requires an honest life. It does not need constant improvement. It needs present moment awareness. The transformation spreads naturally. When you stop chasing society's version of happiness, you give others permission to question it too. When you find contentment in simple things, you show people that it is possible. Real happiness is not about achieving everything you want. It is about appreciating everything you have while working toward what truly matters to you. You were never meant to be endlessly dissatisfied. You were meant to wake up, to question what you were taught, and to return to the natural contentment that society convinced you to abandon. The great deception ends the moment you stop believing it.